pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to the January 17th meeting. We have 4 items on the agenda. No problem. Everything is being recorded, both audio and video. Michelle, could you do the roll, please?
Ann Brandell. Here. Tim Palmer.
Here.
Terry Senecal.
Here.
Debbie Blake. Here. James Sherman.
Here.
Elena Tamer.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Item 1 is the Provost subdivision. Request for a 6-lot subdivision of a 79.1 acre parcel resulting in 4 new buildable residential lots, a new public road and remaining lands located at 296 Robinson Road with private water and private sewer, zoned R2, tax map parcel number 191.327.4. Owner applicant is Gary Provost. Engineer is AES Northeast. We're here for a sketch plan review. I would ask that anyone who may have any conflicts of interest related to this project identify themselves at this point. Okay, none being heard. Trevor, is this yours?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll do a quick review and then hand it over to the project. So, we've learned that we gotta use the mouse here. So here on Robinson Road, the military turnpike is out here, and you have Banker Road extension and then Robinson Road. The property we'll be looking at here is highlighted in blue, mostly recently cleared, somewhat wooded vacant land. It's all within the R2 district. There are some wetlands on the property. They've been shown on the subdivision map provided. There may be, more focused wetland delineations necessary in the future, but they are acknowledged on the subdivision map that was provided. And zooming a little bit on site, what's not shown here is we spoke with the applicant probably over a year ago. They came in, we discussed the idea of a potential future subdivision here, and at the time, the concept of diving right in and building the road isn't where they wanted to focus, so they got a building permit to build a home right here. That house has been constructed, and now they're looking to move forward, and that will require a new public town road because, well, that would be landlocked. In order to get the new parcels, we're going to need to go north of the new public road. This was an overall plan for the site. Robinson Road, again, is down here to the south. This would be the entrance. This lot here is where the first home was built. And we'll go to another map just after this that shows lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 are what's proposed with a turnaround here and the stormwater retention. These future lots with this loop road would be later phases. And you can see that wetland, kind of preliminary boundary here showing how it would impact the overall site. Zoomed in on the subdivision map, this is again is the lot that was constructed, or the home that was constructed. It would need to be created as a lot. So you have lot here, lot 2, 3, and 4. Those numbers might not be the same, but town turnaround built to town specs, and then a stormwater area that would be conveyed to the town as well. Our overall comments are pretty basic at the sketch stage, just clearly identifying public road, town road standards, highway permits, street lighting, stormwater, all the ideas of road bond, 1-year warranty. This is stuff, we always talk about Heritage Heights or Partridge Hill, all those ones that you've already worked through with these same issues. There's nothing really unique about this one other than, unlike the others, there's no public water or public sewer here, so this all requires involvement from Clinton County Health Department for septic systems and wells. It isn't at its 5th lot yet, so it doesn't trigger Clinton County Realty subdivision. It will, at the next phase trigger that, but at this phase it doesn't. Say anything, James?
At what point does the town actually take over the road?
We would upon completion. So in order to get any additional lot in here, because the only frontage on that property currently is out here. So in order to get these additional lots, they would have to construct that new town road. I think it's just over 600 feet.
It's right around 700.
Yeah. Around 700. So it would be very similar to what we required with Gillis Hebert subdivision just down the road here, which was about 6 lots. And if you include these 2 at the front of the road that already exist, that's basically the 6 lots. So that's why we tried to be equitable with the minimum requirement for what it was worth for the town to take over and plow, maintain all that public road. I'd hand it over to the project if you had anything else you wanted to elaborate on.
No, I think that pretty well covers it. We're just trying to make a beginning of a larger scale project into the future. Planning ahead with the loop road and trying to make sure we're best fitting the needs of the client and providing what the town needs.
Do you have any idea how quickly development will occur?
I would assume over the next 4 years. He's of course already moving on lot 1 with a building permit, so I'm sure these lots will probably move fairly quickly.
Are they on the market now? Will they be on soon?
Yes, I'm sure as soon as final plans have been approved that they'll be on the market.
How many lots in the full build out?
I don't remember off the top of my
You
head.
showed earlier.
Oh, 16.
Okay. Any thought to sidewalks within the subdivision?
We have not really gone through the discussion of sidewalks through here. We've looked at the other subdivisions that have happened throughout the town.
Sure.
Partridge Hill, Partridge Heights, a lot of them don't currently have sidewalks, so we, I guess, waited for input.
Not a requirement, and obviously it's quite rural and not a lot of lots, but people do feel more comfortable walking on sidewalks with strollers and walking their dogs, etc. So it does make it feel like a nice neighborhood having those moments.
And it's something that's been evolving in the town.
Yes.
Not that long ago, from my perspective, there weren't that many sidewalks.
Yeah.
Now you can go all the way from Morrisonville to the city beach, I think, on the sidewalk.
Yes.
And it may feel the same way for this, but at the moment, but a sidewalk would be a nice feature.
We'll have to discuss that with the owner and see how he wants to get together.
We have an expression, our town has sidewalks that go nowhere, but someday they will all.
Yes. Yeah, we actually just helped Trevor last year with the River Street expansion, connecting that, so we understand where the town's planning board is going.
It looks like 30 lots, Melina. I just noticed a error on number 7 that I had here of our comments that the project will create one new developable parcel of $250 fee will be required. It's actually $250 per lot, and it's not one new developable parcel, obviously. 4.
So right now we have 4 lots, is that correct?
That's what's proposed for phase 1, yes.
Although this has 6.
Yeah, 6 is remaining lands and then the town road.
Okay.
So we do, we are, our fees and stuff are calculated on the 4 lots that will be created. The one that's conveyed to the town, we're not going to, that just gets subdivided and transferred to us, and then there's the remaining lands. So 6 total involved.
Are there any further questions or comments on the board?
I guess I have a general comment, maybe it's for Trevor, I don't know. Why would the town want to take over management of the stormwater on this site versus just having the developer manage it?
Good question. We've learned over the years, we have a mix of these around town. And whether the town wanted to or not, eventually it became a problem. I'll give you an example. Vintage Estates off of Wallace Hill was a subdivision that was pre-planned with ditches and backyards for stormwater conveyance and this whole system that was up to the individuals to maintain. But the problem with a subdivision that we found is the original owner, once they sell every lot, they have no title, interest, or anything to the property, and the stormwater becomes a no man's land of maintenance. So the fact that it typically is made to drain the town's road, ditches, it becomes a piece of infrastructure that whether we wanted to or not, we end up maintaining. And so now we've learned, take the storm basin, maintain it so it's actually, functioning.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Wait, do we know how wet it is? I mean, you identified wetlands into the back. Do you know how wet it is actually back that way?
I mean, just from observation in the maps, you can see, so it actually, you'll see that these two things match up. The line here that they identified, this curve, that's what's shown on this map as a wetland with a 100-foot boundary. And so on this, you can see, they used this information to kind of mimic that for the plan. When they get to that phase, we'll probably require actual wetland delineations to determine where is that boundary. They may find that they have room for 2 extra lots or 2 less lots. That'll be based on delineation in the future.
Will that have any impact on actual putting in of septics and things like that?
Maybe. Yeah, so these first phases are clearly dry. You can go out there and see on site, it's high and dry, so there's no concern from us about that at phase 1 at all. But as we go further north, then maybe you get in that potential where it can impact it, so. Yeah, they're gonna have a perk test for each one of these, will require individual septic treatment system tests, which has percolation data, so the county will have to sign off on those as well.
Also have an additional one for the stormwater system,
Right.
so.
Phil Koschel will be reviewing that.
Dan, any questions? Anyone else? Questions or comments? Okay, this is a sketch plan, no need for a public meeting. Do I hear a motion for resolution 23-01 that resolves, among other things, that the board concurs and accepts the findings and recommendations of the planning staff and requires the applicant to submit all required materials related to the detailed preliminary plan to the planning department at least 200 days prior to the planning board meeting?
Second.
Thank you. Chuck?
Anne Brendel,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Tim Palmer.
Yes. Item number 2 is the Plattsburgh Family Dentistry site. It's a request for a parking lot expansion from 20 to 38 spaces with associated minor site improvements. Located at 326 Tom Miller Road with public water and public sewer, zone town center 3, tax parcel number 206.1-18.2. Owner applicant is 326 Tom Miller Road LLC. Engineer is ABA, who we're here for the seeker determination and detailed preliminary plan review. I would ask if anyone has any conflicts of interest related to the project that they let us know now. None being heard. Jessica?
So you guys seen this project a few times now because it previously expired, so it's back for reapproval. So the plans really haven't changed at all, other than that one amendment to the building. That is the one we're planning for. So we'll keep it quick. We all know it's very wet behind the building. This layer is not fully accurate, but the plans do show an accurate line of where it is wet on this property. And this is a parking expansion to the rear. This is where it would come in. This is where the parking lot would be. And because we've seen it a few times, the plans haven't really changed. I don't have any comments.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Mike Kuhn with AEDA. As Jess indicated, this was in front of you last year. They did not proceed with the site work to create the new parking lot, and therefore it expired, but they're looking to plan ahead for this year's construction season. So it's the same driveway and parking lot configuration as previously, with relocation of the dumpster pad. Currently it sits right here where the new drive would go through, so we're relocating it to the end here with some cedar hedge screening. And then the parking lot will be in the grassed area that you saw in the previous pictures, that is the former sewage system location for the dental office. So now that land is no longer used as it's got a public sewer connection. So the parking lot will generally be in that area with some tree clearing for some stormwater management within the wetland bounds. So we won't disturb any wetlands. Small, very small retaining wall just to step down in grade to make sure we don't disturb these wetlands. So it will be employee access. There's an employee access door in the back. All of the customers will still utilize the front main entry. So that's the proposal. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Just out of curiosity, is anything done with an obsolete septic system? You just build over it?
Yeah, just abandoned in place. So for this purpose, to build up the parking area with new gravel, it would all be torn out.
Oh,
And they hooked up to the new, it had to be filled in.
you mean it was filled in
Oh,
then?
definitely. They inspected it to make sure you filled your sewer and the tanks.
Wow, they done. I didn't know that.
Well, maybe the tank.
Yeah, the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of the
They did
field.
it on all mine. They came and made sure I put dirt in it.
Yeah, in the tank. Yeah, right.
Not a leach field.
Are there any questions or comments by members of the board? Okay, a public hearing is required. Public hearing for the purpose of hearing all persons interested in or wanting to comment on the aforementioned project is now open. No one wish to speak to this? That not being the case, we'll close it. Let's see, seeker.
The project completed secret part 1, staff completed part 2, and no significant environmental impacts have been identified.
Are there any questions or comments about the seeker on the part of the board? I'm just checking because the numbers on my paperwork are different. Let's see. Okay, you got it. So, do I hear a motion for resolution 23-02A, which resolves, among other things, that the planning board has determined that this project is an unlisted action in accordance with environmental review procedures, and that a negative declaration shall be disseminated to those institutions required by law?
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Ann. Michelle?
Ann Brendel.
Yes.
Terry Centerfold.
Yes.
Debbie Blake. James Sherman.
Yes.
Elena Tamer.
Yes.
Tim Palmer.
Yes. Item 3.
We have the,
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you very much for helping me out with this. Do I hear a motion for resolution 23-02B that resolves, among other things, that the planning board authorizes and directs the chairman to execute the revised detailed preliminary site plan certified by the town's planning and community development department?
So moved.
Thank you.
Who seconded?
I did.
Ann Brendel.
Yes.
Terry Centerfold.
Yes.
Debbie Blake. James Sherman.
Yes.
Elena Tamer.
Yes.
Tim Palmer.
Yes, and thank you very much, board members, for keeping me on track. I really appreciate that. Okay, back to item 3, which is North Titanium HVAC upgrade site plan. It's a request to install new HVAC equipment on concrete pads with related site improvement located at 44 Martinez Circle with public water and public sewer. Zoned SD, tax map parcel number 220.1-3.131. The owner is Fort Schuyler Management Corporation, applicants North Titanium, engineer is AEDA. We're here for, once again, the secret determination and a sketch detailed preliminary plan review. Trevor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been the year of air handling equipment. And Salerno, Cameron, air handling equipment. You had UMR, UMS a few months ago, and now we have Norsk. So here is Industrial Boulevard. Here's Martinez Circle. This is the property we're looking at. Across the road is Les Swarovski, now WAC. And the area we'll be looking at is an area of equipment here and another area of equipment here. It's all within the SD district, which is our new form of industrial. Not just industrial, but it replaced that. And just zooming in a little more, you'll see some existing equipment here. This is the area we'll be talking about. And there's this equipment here, but we're going to be talking about an area. And in case anybody remembers, I had forgotten, but then when I looked at the plans, I remembered there was a phase of this building that we had planned for with parking in this area. And we did confirm that this would really have very minimal impact, if anyone remembered that, but I hadn't, so I'd be impressed if you did. And here's the site plan. I'm going to skip right to the next one because it zooms in. So let me get the orientation right. It looks like Industrial Boulevard would be out here. So this was that area I pointed out in the curve of Martinez Circle. So I'm not going to pretend to understand all of the equipment and what it's intended to do. So I will hand it over to Mike.
Thank you. So before I jump into the equipment, just to touch on the parking. When Norsk first moved into the building, it was owned by TDC, and the back half of the building was always potentially for a second tenant. So when we first did the upgrades for Norsk to occupy, the additional parking on the north side was for if TDC were to ever utilize it for two separate tenants, which now Fort Schuyler Management and Norsk own the building, so that's really an obsolete sort of need. So now in terms of the proposed equipment, so there's two halves of the building. There's a firewall that goes right through at this line here. So it's two completely separate spaces. There is some interior doors. There's a rolling door and a man door. But that said, they serve two separate functions. This is the production floor that houses the 3D printing machines. And right now, this is largely unused, but Norsk does have plans to bring in equipment back here and turn this into a more usable space other than some storage. So currently, the production area has a temporary air conditioner that's outside, cribbed up on some 4x4s and some temporary ducts running inside. So because of the 3D printing machines, they really need to get a stable both temperature and humidity within the production space. In the back area, for the equipment they'll have in there, they only need temperature. They're not so concerned with humidity. So could you jump to the next slide, please? So the two separate areas are for the production hall along Martinez Circle. It's a large, what's normally referred to as an RTU or a rooftop unit. They're similar to what you normally see on the roof. Since this steel building can't support that, we have to put it down on the ground. So there'd be a concrete pad for the equipment, then a separate dehumidifier on a concrete pad, and an air conditioning unit for the dehumidifier because it superheats the air to dry it out before introducing it back into the airflow. So we have to cool that down before it goes back in so that we don't have to oversize the air conditioning. So essentially it's three pieces of HVAC equipment on the Martinez Circle side, and then back hidden from view largely on the opposite side of the building is a single 80-ton air conditioner and heat and furnace for the back half of the building. So currently there's a number of unit heaters that you would see in a warehouse type setting throughout both spaces. Those will be removed and replaced with furnaces within these two package units. They will have energy recovery, so they will utilize the exhausting air to temper the outdoor air. So they're bringing in outside ventilation air to make a better indoor air quality for the employees and the equipment. So it's all within energy code to utilize energy recovery to use less electricity, less fossil fuels. In terms of, we're here in front of you because we exceed the 1,000 square foot threshold. Essentially from Martinez Circle with the property line being right here, we need to create a level pad off of the building to give service area around the equipment. So we have a 5 foot high, I believe, maximum, or sorry, that's the chain link fence. The retaining wall, I cannot read that.
We're gonna do some plantings to conceal the.
Yeah, so we're gonna try and, we don't have room on the Martina Circle side to do any plantings along the base of the wall, but on the side that faces Industrial Boulevard, we are proposing some shrubs, some cedar shrubs to kind of soften the retaining wall.
6 foot long, maybe?
So it's roughly a 4-foot wall. From the top of the wall to the ditch line, it's roughly 4 to 5 feet.
And it's concrete.
Yeah, it'll be large format retaining wall blocks. And then to help screen some of the HVAC equipment, we're proposing a 5-foot high chain link, black vinyl coated chain link fence along the top of the wall. So it'll serve two functions. It'll serve fall protection, so any maintenance employees wouldn't step off the wall, and also screen some of the units visually.
Well, the
So it'll be
fence,
like the blocks in front of the parking area. Retaining.
Yes, yeah,
They already have one for the parking.
right, correct. They do, yeah.
will the fence have any sort of material for additional screening or just be a?
As of now, we were just proposing black chain link. So that's my summary. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Mike, one of my comments was about the unit labeled DX. Is that one gonna be replaced, or is that an existing one that's gonna remain, the dehumidifier?
So the existing temporary air conditioner, that's going away. So all these will be new pieces of equipment. And in regards to Trevor's review comments, he asked if we could align this back so it's in line with this. I'd be happy to say yes. I'm not entirely sure what the finished dimensions of the equipment will be because they have to bid this out. So we've designed it based on one manufacturer. The actual manufacturer might vary. So basically there is an egress door here. So we're trying to maintain a clear distance for if people need to egress. I can shift it as much as I can and still, I could put a dimension on the plan to make sure they.
Yeah, the code's enforcement officers it was kind of their interpretation of considering this sort of accessory equipment and that needed to be within a 10-foot side yard setback, or front yard, I should say. This is a unique situation where it's 2 front yards. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was, the other one you had dimensioned as 10 feet. So they were like, that works. So that was why I was specific to getting it in line with those, if at all possible.
To be 10 feet from the property line. Okay, I think we could do that. I was trying to do 10 feet off of the wall. Yeah. So if it's 10 feet on the property line, then yeah, we can achieve that.
You've mentioned furnaces. I know that there's natural gas available.
Yes.
Was there any consideration given to using heat pumps, using other more efficient, less fossil fuel dependent air conditioning?
We did look into and discuss with the equipment supplier we've been working with. Unfortunately, given the size of the space, heat pumps are great, but they don't go that big. So they would have to be completely separate equipment than this. And that just wasn't economically feasible. With basically adding the furnace part to this large air conditioner is very minimal cost. If we had to do all independent heat pumps to provide the heat, it would grow exponentially. There is natural gas. The old heating within the building is actually still on propane, but they did get a natural gas service from NYSEG. So there's a new meter and regulator that these will hook up to.
So there's an existing natural gas line there.
An unused new natural gas is in place. Yes.
As someone who's concerned about climate change issues, I'd like to see us depending less on developing further natural gas infrastructure rather than more.
Yeah, I agree, but to this scale, it's not quite there yet.
Right. So you're saying you'd have to do both? Is that do I understand that correctly?
Right, to go with a heat pump based heating system, it couldn't be incorporated into this single packaged unit. It would need separate outdoor heat pumps and then indoor heat exchangers.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to touch on one thing that I looked at as well. The project did require referral to the county planning board under GML 239. The county planning board did vote 6-0
Yes.
to be in the location.
Yeah. I agree with that. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board? Debbie? No? Okay. This project is at a stage where a public hearing is required. And so we'll open the public hearing for the purpose of hearing all persons interested in or wanting to comment on the aforementioned project. The hearing is now open. Anyone here wish to speak? No one does, so we'll close the public hearing. And I'm looking, I guess now, if there are no further comments, let's see, actually, yes,
Seeker?
please.
Point out the project did complete a Seeker Part 1 EAF. Staff completed the Seeker Part 2. We did not identify any items of environmental significance, therefore we prepared a draft resolution for issuance of a negative deck, should you agree with our comments.
Any comments from any members of the board on the seeker findings? None being heard, do I hear a motion for resolution 23-04A, which resolves, among other things, that the planning board has determined that this project is an unlisted action in accordance with environmental review procedures, and that a negative declaration shall be disseminated to those institutions required by law?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Michelle?
Anne Brando,
Yes.
Barry Senecal,
Yes.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Melanie Taylor,
Yes.
Kim Palmer.
Yes. And now do I hear a motion for resolution 23-03B? The planning board authorizes and directs the chairman to execute the revised detailed preliminary site plans certified by the town's planning and community development department.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Anne Brando,
Yes.
Barry Senecal.
Yep.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Melanie Taylor,
Yes.
Kim Palmer.
Yes. Thank you very much. Actually, you're here for a whole streak. Item number 4, Route 9 storage site plan. It's a request to construct a 46,800 square foot, 264 unit self-service storage facility with a 1,600 square foot office space and related site improvements. This is located on Route 9 with public water and public sewer, zoned as C, tax map parcel number 194.2-47.1. East Property Management. The applicant is Rick Cuero, engineer is AEDA, and we are here again for a secret determination and a detailed preliminary plan review. It's just, thank you.
I do want to point out to the board and everyone present that between sketch plan and detailed plan, there has been a change in square footage and number of units, and that's why there's a discrepancy between the description in your paperwork and the description on the screen. This reflects what is actually proposed now due to the changes.
And excuse me for getting this, but if there is anyone who has any potential conflict of interest, we would like to have them declare that at this point. When being heard, please go ahead.
And part of that change also included the potential office would be deferred to a future phase. This was not proposed with this. So I think you guys saw this one in September. For orientations, Route 9 North, Cumberland 12 is right here, housing is right here, and we are looking at this front area of this parcel. It is zoned 2 different things, service center and land conservation. It's wet in the far back, but that shouldn't be affecting this proposal. So this is what is proposed now. Previously, what you guys saw was a gravel and smaller sort of clustered area in the front with a slightly different layout. But now this is what's proposed, a little bit longer. I don't have any major comments, pretty much the standard comments for all site plans, other than making sure to require that any future phases of the development of the office will require that they return to the planning board, as would be customary for any additional commercial development. And that office would obviously require connecting to water, sewer potentially, and where those are located. Other than that, no major comments. They did change it from gravel to paving, which you guys had requested back in September as well. And I believe there is a sidewalk proposed.
And there was also a comment about lighting.
Yes. Which, if we go to, lighting is this one, it's hard to see. Lighting is, and then this landscaping and grading on this one.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, as Jess narrated, when we had the sketch plan, it was before we had completed our survey of the property. So once we had all the topography and the existing conditions, and we really started playing with the access through the proposed storage building areas, we've come up with this design, which did slightly increase the number of rental units and the square footage of building, but not too significantly. Essentially, the access to the site will be, there's a large pull-off on the side of Route 9, and so we felt natural to align the driveway with that existing pull-off. You'll see with the contours, there's an existing sort of upper plateau here, and there is a highway cross culvert right here on Route 9 that I believe drains the west side, and it goes through Mr. Quiro's property to the east. So in taking the comments from the sketch plan, we've developed the landscaping plan, which hopefully provides adequate screening from Route 9, but also with the residential development to the south, we've clustered some screening along the property line there to meet the landscape standards. The access as you come through the buildings, once we get past this upper plateau, we've kind of terraced everything. So driveway will come down the hill, and then we can get back closer to existing grade so that we can balance the amount of cuts and fills and any imported material that will be required for the site development. The buildings are all your standard storage buildings, single story, with typically 10 by 20 bays. Some of the buildings, just to best suit sort of the terracing, so the normal buildings will be back to back and then some end units. Here we just have a single row of buildings with front access. Likewise, down at the bottom of the slope, we have another single row building. These are slightly larger units. Mr. Quiro operates a storage facility in Peru, so he knows, what people are in need of. So he's got a development with an assortment of different sizes to try and suit different needs of the community. So these are some slightly larger units, and then back-to-back units, and then here's another final row with a single row of rental units. In terms of phasing, the approach generally is that buildings A and B will be phase 1. That will be his initial construction, and I have some notes on C101 to describe that. And with that, we have a stormwater system up here that will handle buildings A and B and the paved driveway surfaces around it, such that he can, as a standalone phase 1, build units A and B, bring the stormwater here into a bioretention area per the DEC standards, and that would outlet and go to the east. And then when phase 2, he's ready to commence that, that would be the driveway continuing down, building C and D, and then the whole lower level. So basically just working down the hill, the outlet from the bioretention will then be incorporated into a pond. And we've got some other water quality control features, another bioretention area, and a dry swale along here to meet the DEC stormwater standards. So the intent would be he can construct phase one with buildings A and B, close that out with the codes office and as built for phase one, and then get prepared for the bulk of the rest of the concept, or the rest of the plan. As far as the concept, in the sketch, we originally came in with a small office building. Really, the long-term needs might change there. So we've out on C101 shown a larger rectangle that could be 2 additional regular storage buildings. It could be a multi-story climate-controlled storage. It's going to be kind of up to what Mr. Quiro has for demand and need. So right now, it would not include any water and sewer. It's just electric for the lighting. In regards to the lighting comment, so I didn't provide an image, but the spec on the fixture is a downcast. Basically, it's the same fixture that's on the first phase of Why Not Storage. And I guess that's my presentation, if anyone has any questions.
How long is the anticipated build out?
Well, phase one would be quick, right? A year. Phase two is probably a bigger question.
I didn't understand or appreciate that you were actually proposing multiple phases of construction. On a revised detailed plan, could you show those phases?
Yeah. Could you run back to C101? So we put some notes in there. You know, in hindsight, we were kind of trying to get this done before the Christmas holidays. But yeah, we can certainly delineate with some lines and some color in terms of what which part of the grading and the limits of phase one. But it's basically from there forward, and then the stormwater right there.
The driveway will loop around.
The biggest concern for us is if the stormwater and the utilities for phase one are constructed at phase one.
Sure.
And clearly identified that that's phase one, so there's something that as built could be done for that clearly identifies this was what needed to be done for phase one. I think, yeah, Jess, you mentioned about why not, how we did something similar. We required Chris to do all the stormwater that was required for all of phase one, which was considered 2 or 3 buildings, but only did 1 building. But all the stormwater was done, and then as he's gone on to other phases now, as we expand that.
Because that gives us basically one inspection, then codes has multiple inspections after versus both sets of departments going out every time.
And the phasing note says that phase one would include all stormwater management systems,
Well,
drive improvements, et cetera.
which directly serve buildings
Buildings
A and B. So that, I guess the intent there, and maybe it was worded a little funny, could you go back to the grading plan? So this stormwater serves all of building A and B, including the pavement. So that's kind of what we were trying to portray. So as far as the stormwater would include the ditch and the bioretention area and the outlets, but that's all that's needed to support buildings A and B. The building C and D outlet to this stormwater management area, and then the whole lower level outlets to this dry swale, and then ultimately everything goes to the pond.
Are there any issues with the way this was reviewed under seeker now that there's clear phasing plan?
This shouldn't make a difference.
I wouldn't think so, as long,
Because
because,
the stormwater is for all of it.
yeah, the stormwater management plan was reviewed and basically encapsulates all phases, so there still should be no
So
stormwater.
if they only build part of it, it's still accounted.
Correct.
As long as, yeah, each phase is built with its own stormwater meeting criteria.
Was there some concern about this crossing 2 kinds of zoning? Was
Yeah.
the one that has a concern about a
So
conservation area?
the district boundary is approximately here, but I did talk to Mike about this ahead of time, and as long as the buildings themselves are not more than 30 feet into the adjacent boundary, it still meets the ordinance. The ordinance allows for a 30-foot encroachment into the more restricted district.
So we just need some survey quality assurance that it's
Proving
not.
that
Yeah, I mean, so these are 10-foot bays, so you could see the line goes right through the third demising wall, so that's roughly 30 feet, and then these would be less. That said, you know, we imported the zoning map into our CAD survey to get this boundary, if it's 5 feet one way, 10 feet the other way, I couldn't tell you. I mean,
And our own ordinance speaks to that, because a zoning boundary isn't a hard line on a map, it's an approximation, so you use the best that you have. In this case, it was importing that and putting it in CAD, so we, that is about as good as it gets as far as understanding where the
Can
line
you add
is.
a note to the plan, Mike? There, somewhere.
about don't encroach the invisible line.
That you're
more than
only
30 feet.
encroaching by 30 feet.
No more than 30.
Yeah, so Jess and I discussed that before the meeting. Yeah, so we'll add a note dictating, intent to project that buildings HIJ won't encroach more than 30 feet into zone LC.
Just for the record, in case anyone at home wants to know what we're talking about, it's section 2.4, lots in more than one district. Where a legal district boundary line divides a legally existing lot of record, the regulations for the less restricted portion, in this case SC, of the lot shall not extend more than 30 feet into the most restricted portion, LC, provided that the lot has frontage on a street in the less restricted portion, which is the case.
Does the use matter in the district or not?
It has to be an allowed use.
Yeah.
Is this an allowed use in land conservation?
So as a point of information, I didn't realize how squishy the lines were. How squishy are they? I mean, is it plus or minus
Well, no.
20 feet or?
Well, yeah, when a whole parcel is zoned one way, then it's not really a question. It's
Clear.
only when
Right.
they're split, which is usually only big parcels. And we tried to remove as many split zones as we could in the last zoning ordinance updates because it is a pain.
The good news is with our overlays, I use a lot of transparent overlays, so we have our zoning map and then you have how it shows up on a property. I mean, we can see kind of trees that align with it. We're probably within 5-10 feet in most cases, which on large parcels like this really isn't an issue. It's an issue when you're in a really tight, dense, but Jess was spot on, where we try to mimic property boundaries in most cases, so it's clear.
So if you have a property that's in one district, then that boundary is on the edge of the district. That boundary is a hard line. Do you then use that hard line to interpolate if you have to cross over a large?
Only, so if your property is, say your whole property is zoned R2,
Yes.
but you're adjacent to a commercial,
Yeah.
you don't have this same benefit because you're not a property in more than one district that's split by a district line. Your use has to stay on your lot and can't leave that lot.
Right. I was just wondering if you use.
Like how we would estimate.
Yeah, if you would interpolate from the hard line that you happen to have on one adjacent property across.
Oh, well, in this case, honestly, because we have the benefit of a road and aerial imagery, you can kind of take some measurements, and in this, and we have pictometry, which is pretty accurate within a foot, 2 feet, so we can get pretty close. It's not, we say squishy, but we're talking feet, not dozens of feet.
Well, that said, this is just a question on top of my head. What's the legal document that it all ties back to? Is it the printed zoning map that Shays and Associates prepared, or is it your GIS? Because I don't know the tolerances between those two,
Yeah.
It's a
Well, the
very-
printed map is from the shapefile, so the shapefile probably was more
Right.
rules.
Let's have a reading, shall we? Where uncertainty exists with respect to the boundaries of various districts as shown on the zoning map, the following rules shall apply. We've thought this through. Where district boundaries are so indicated that they approximately follow the lot lines, such lot lines shall be construed to be said boundaries. Where district boundaries are indicated as approximately following the center lines of streets or highways, street lines or highway right-of-way lines, such center lines, or street lines or highway right-of-ways shall be construed to be such boundaries. Where district boundaries are so indicated that they are approximately parallel to center lines or street lines or the center lines of right-of-way lines of highways, such district boundaries shall be construed as being parallel thereto and at such a distance therefrom as indicated on the zoning map. If no distance is given, such dimensions shall be determined by the use of a scale shown on said zoning map. And then finally D, where after application of A, B, and C above, uncertainty exists in determining the precise location of any district boundary line, the Board of Appeals shall interpret the intent and purposes of the zoning map. So, you hope to not have to get, it'd have to be really close and really of a lot of value for us to get all the way to the ZBA. I think it's happened once since I've been here. So in this case, I think we have quite a bit of information, where I'm just saying what I would do is maybe go down the road, and if there was a property boundary that aligns with that red, I'd find out the distance from the road that was, take it here, go back. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can approximate it, but.
Well, and the shape files are built to the tax map, so they should be pretty darn close.
And you used CAD, right?
Yeah.
And CAD and GIS work together. This happens to be in GIS. They're not perfect. I don't know what the translation rate is, how close they get, but they're compatible programs. So I'm inclined to trust the line on the map that they provided.
Well, sort of as a follow-up to Mr. Kuhn's question, who makes the call? I mean, what causes it to go to the ZBA? If it's gonna go to the ZBA? I mean, is it the planning board? Is it the?
Ultimately, the code enforcement officer is the one
Code
that can make
enforcement.
like a formal ruling interpretation of
Yes.
the ordinance. So Steve would have to weigh in, and if they don't like Steve's answer, then they would appeal it to the ZBA.
Right.
Just like almost any other rule in the ordinance.
And hopefully if it's inconsequential, it can just be fixed. If it looks like it's gonna
Right.
be moved 2 feet, it can be moved.
There is a public hearing required. If there are, assuming there are no more comments, are there any comments or questions from the board at this point? None being heard, we need to open a public hearing for the purpose of hearing all persons interested in or wanting to comment on the aforementioned project, and that hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak to this? No one being heard, we'll close it. Comments on the secret process?
The project completed secret part 1, staff completed part 2 and 3. No significant environmental impacts were identified, and we did receive the stormwater review in time for the meeting. So on your, not this resolution, but the next one, we do have a date to receive of that letter.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the seeker? None being heard, I'd like to hear a motion for resolution 23-04A, which resolves, among other things, that the planning board has determined that this project is an unlisted action in accordance with environmental review procedures, and that a negative declaration shall be disseminated to those institutions required by law. So moved. Thank you. Here, a second.
Second?
Thank you.
Jane Randall,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Tim Palmer.
Yes. Are there any further comments or questions about the plan?
I have one more, I'm sorry. I
Yes.
may
No,
have
that's
missed this, but what color are these buildings going to be?
So we didn't indicate that per se on the drawings. I did ask Mr. Quiro's input and he provided, got a few copies here if anyone wants. But essentially there's 3 options he's considering, all beige earth tone building bodies, and then the door and the roof trims in either green, brown, or like a burnt cedar.
I know it's green.
Looks like a jail.
Do they ever consider any roof lines on these?
They're a low slope roof. They're what, 3 on 12, I think. I mean, they're really all about minimizing
Really
material.
wouldn't be very obvious, you know.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Green or something like that.
Having seen those options,
Or even green and green.
does anyone on the board wish to express a preference, or is there any discussion?
Well, I let, the white, or light color looks like a jail to me,
Okay. I can see that.
you know.
It's too bad they
So
can't
maybe
add
brown,
some,
brown and green is a little
Yeah,
less
I like the
in
brown
your
and green.
face.
some detail. Some
Oh.
architectural detail.
Pardon?
For storage sheds, I don't know if we're gonna get that.
Yeah,
I think they're usually ordered in like a kit of sorts.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's not a lot of
have-
variation.
So that said, I think you can do different door color to trim color. We just printed those out with the same matching.
you don't like them,
The more unobtrusive, the better.
Greenhouse.
Um,
Did you need another one, Laura?
I don't think so. Just give it back to Mike, maybe. Unless we want to see them. How visible are they from the road?
There's a.
Yeah, they are pretty.
If you drive it up Route 9 and you look towards the movie theater, you'll never see them.
I
Thanks,
see.
Matt.
Yeah, look at the unfinished sign in front of the movie theater.
Walk the next 3, that's like low grade, right? The ones
Right,
that
Yeah.
correct. You would really only see probably these first 3.
What plantings are there in front of it?
Could you jump back to the landscape plan? Yeah, so there's clusters of honey locusts for shade trees, and then also spruce trees and cedars for year-round evergreen.
What's interesting is this has very similar grading to the DeRocher one that was approved years and years ago. This has more landscaping and is laid out a little different, but that one has a very similar grade change where it goes back and then it drops 6 feet maybe, and then there's a section that's just like this where it's low, but it's split just like this.
So, and if you consider the plantings, does that address your concern?
Oh, yeah, that helps.
Especially the evergreen.
Okay, is there any further discussion regarding the plan? You okay? Okay. I'd like to hear a motion for resolution 23-04B, that the planning board authorizes and directs the chairman to execute the revised detailed preliminary site plan as certified by the town's planning and community development department.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Blaine.
Anne Brandel. Yes. Sarah Senecal.
Yes.
Debbie Blakely. James Sherman. Elaine Taylor.
Yes.
Tim Palmer.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there any further business before the board? Okay, we can do that.